the motion, the resolution that we have presented is that council receives the report and awards the tender to LJ&G Feeds for the sum of $2,053,472.50. Do I have a mover? Councillor Gleeson, seconder. Councillor Rogers. Is there any debate or discussion? Being none, I'll put the vote. Those in favour? Carried 6-0. Councillor Arthur can return. Councillors, can I have somebody move that we receive my report, please? Councillor Gleeson, Councillor Hanson. In favour? Carried. 7-0. My report's relatively straightforward. The only addition to that, and it'll appear in the next one, but it happened yesterday. I attended along with some councillors and most of the senior staff Vietnam Veterans Day, formerly known as Long Tan Day, or still known as that by some. It was a quite nice but very simple, quite simple but very nice service held over here in the cul-de-sac. The local RSL, as always, did a very good job, and the North Queensland Zone chairman for the RSL was in town for that, and there were a number of veterans who were present there, so from conflicts of all eras. So it was the school was well represented, Barcaldine State School, and there was a student from the school who played the trumpet for both the Last Post and Ravelli, and Renell gave a very nice welcome to country that was relevant to the day that we were celebrating as a daughter of a former serviceman. So it was a very nice service, and I was pleased to be able to join council staff and councillors at that. So the RSL indicated their next event would be their final for the year, and that would be Remembrance Day, obviously on the 11th. So, yeah. Other than that, councillors, we're willing to take questions on anything in my report.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, your meeting with the CEO of Tourism and Events OQTA, how are we going with that?
The ball's in their court now.
Yep.
It was a frank and open meeting. They weren't at that point honouring the terms of their agreement with us. They gave an undertaking to review what they could further offer us, and we're waiting for that feedback to come back from that. So we've had no formal, if any, I don't think we've had even any informal chats since that day. So we do have an unpaid invoice, like as in they have an invoice to us that we haven't paid, so I'm pretty sure that the feedback will come.
Thank you.
I mean, and that conversation was linked around stuff that we've talked about in this group before, value for money being lost in amongst other council areas in the outback tourism region, not making it onto maps, literally not making it on the map, all of those sorts of things, as well as process around how they develop packages in conjunction with council, what feedback they didn't take, the Outback Mates program. It's a very broad-ranging conversation, and by any fair assessment, Outback Queensland were wanting at every measure, substantially wanting in some cases. In other cases, I'll be honest and fair, there probably was just a little bit of missed communication at times, but very seldom was that fault on our side of the fence.
So what's our membership now?
20,000 and change.
I thought it was a bit more than that, yeah. Yeah, well, they need to perform for us, Mr. Mayor, otherwise we can develop the 20,000 ourselves.
It's the thought of management as well. Any other questions?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Have you had any word back from Kerry Hayes and Mark Strelo?
Yes. We're just trying to make a date work. Yes, so certainly we'll be stand up. We're trying to get it to happen within the next few days, weeks, if possible, so that we can have a joint position on electioneering for the state campaign. There's issues around roads, schools, health, a whole bunch of stuff that's pertinent to the three of us. We want to be specific, unlike broad brush type things. We think there's an opportunity for the three of us to be very specific about our requests. We cover, a very large part of Queensland when you made those three council areas together. So it's just a matter of aligning our calendars, which is, as you can imagine, not easy. So I'll hopefully have a concrete document to bring back to you in September. Councillor Clark.
It's not on here, Mr. Mayor, but I was just wondering, with the accident that occurred at IGA the other day, whether there should be some speeding limitations there or something done about it, like it was always going to be an accident waiting to happen. And we're just lucky that it wasn't a child. And I was just wondering, I brought this to Main Roads a few years ago in our last, and I refused to sell raffle tickets in front of IGA now because my heart was in my throat half the time.
Thanks, Councillor. You're right. It is an area where danger exists. TMR, you're also right. TMR were approached about a variety of mitigation, speed restrictions being one of them, zebra crossings being one of them, more defined areas. They rejected the lot, and with reason. I mean, it is a state highway. Whether we agree with it or not, they have their reasons. I'm, I guess, somewhat optimistic that the change of the structure in front of the IGA may define the area for access better. So the pharmacy style entrance being replicated in front of the IGA, as is foreshadowed. I'd like to think that we could hold knowing what we need to do until we see the impact that has on foot traffic versus drive traffic there. I have mentioned just in informal conversation whether we may be able to have a restrict area, like a hashed out area at the entrance to where you would walk up from the street onto the footpath, so that no car can park, say, in an area. Now, I know car parking is an issue there, so that takes away from a car park, as I think Brett pointed out to me. But if we could have an area 900 wide where you're not just going to be literally stepping out from between two massive four-wheel drives because there's a blank spot. There's a number of issues that we could look at, but I don't think we should. I hope nothing now happens to anybody between now and we get those planter boxes done, but I think we'd be being a little bit preemptive until we get our entrance done, because that will change the dynamics of people. Won't just be walking out onto the street from literally the full width of the IGA. There's only going to be certain points where they can and can't do that. So, but I'm not a technical person. That's just the layman's assessment of that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I raised it with Main Roads again after that accident last week. Stephen and I have a meeting with Eric Denham, District Director, next week, and that's on the agenda as well.
Yeah, I sort of work in the main street and there's a lot of trucks going more than they should, faster than they should, and I just thought that the whole lot needs to be slowed down so they can at least see what's happening or what's going on there. Thanks, Rick. Thanks, Mr.
Any more? Okay, 331, CEO's information report. Can I have somebody move that we receive the report, please? Councillor Rogers, second, Councillor Hanson. Those in favour? Carried. Steve, have you got anything you'd like to point out before I ask the questions?
Mr. Mayor, it's been an extremely busy month with hosting the Rapid meeting, having a whole range of different government visitors coming and going. Probably the most significant was the DG from Department of Local Government, Racing and Multicultural Affairs. So we had a really positive visit from. Operationally, everyone's busy. We're obviously still working within COVID safety regime, so we've been communicating with our work crews as best we can that we have to keep up our vigilance. So things like staggered starts and hygiene and distancing and all of those rules are still in play across our workforce. We've had a reasonably high HR load in terms of compiling all the outcomes from the annual reviews, a range of positions being filled, number of positions still being advertised. So it's just been a really busy couple of weeks, but happy to take any specific questions. Oh, and probably most significant is the work that Brett and the finance team have done in readiness for our QTC credit review preparation, which is a presentation that's happening this afternoon. So that's the most significant piece of work in terms of making sure that we get our $2 million loan. That has taken, a lot of people, a lot of effort to pull that together, and then obviously rehearsing and getting ready to make sure that we do a good job of delivering it and selling all the good work we've been doing and what the future looks like. So, that's been a big commitment over the last few weeks.
Mr Mayor, HR, is Lenny still running HR?
Through you, Mr Mayor, yes. Lenny is still running HR at the moment. We've had 2 rounds of recruitment through a external specialist local government recruiting company. The first occasion, we got to the end and we had a very small number of applicants because it was right at the heart of COVID, and our chosen applicant, which we were very happy with, then decided to decline the position, which then they were going to be relocating from Sydney. We then re-advertised. We came up with another applicant that we offered the role who was actually within the region. They then declined the offer. So we're about to embark on our 3rd round of advertising to recruit for that position.
Okay.
You have inbound, haven't you?
No.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
it's-
Off the
yeah.
AT.
Yeah, so it's just about to start, and that'll be done again by the same specialist local government recruitment company. We use them because it's a specialist role, and obviously their reach is a lot further in terms of what we can do in attracting candidates.
Okay. The other question I've got through you, Mr Mayor, is the old building, the old amenities block in Aramac. It's been put up for expression of interest in the bottom right. How come that's been put up for an expression of interest when there's a motion from a past meeting that it remain there until we have further consideration about what to do with it?
Yeah.
Who's got the answer?
But, Mr Mayor, to allow the construction of the new ablution block, that building will have to be removed. There's 2 buildings to be, or there's actually 3 to be removed from the site. There's the old toilets, which the intention was to demolish. The good set of toilets were going to the race club, and then there's the 3rd building, which we hadn't decided where that was going. We had called expressions of interest, I believe, and we had no decision was made, so we've put it out again to so it's the who may be interested in that building, and then
But isn't that an asset of council? Isn't that a decision for council to put that up for an EOI, Rick?
well, the decision about whether, what happens to it will come to council.
Yeah, but before you even put it up, I still think it's a decision for the councils to make whether we want to put it up or not. And the other thing I'd say through you, Mr Mayor, is that possibly we should ask the community what they want to do with it before we even put it up. And I don't know, maybe they want to get rid of it, but
Councillor, can I just ask you to go back and step there? Brett, does it have to be removed? Is it in the footprint of the new building?
Oh, probably to Rick for that, but
no, I don't believe it is.
Wouldn't know off the top of my head, Mr Mayor, but it's certainly in the way. Reconstructing the new building.
So for the period of time that the new building construction commences, there'd be a period there where there's no facilities available, is that? No.
there's there's three sets of facilities.
One's to be demolished.
Yeah, well, that would be after the new ones
Okay.
built.
From the meeting in November 2018, one was resolved to be given to the race club. One, the motion on this building that we're talking about now, that the existing building remains in the current location until the outcome of sport and recreation funding is known. So it's to remain in its current location. No decision was made on it, what to do with it. And the third one, well, that's the old building, I guess you're going to demolish. But the only thing I'm asking, Mr Mayor, is why wasn't councillors asked, those who were sitting around the table, whether we wanted to go to an EOI? Why didn't we consult the community, asked if they want to leave it there? I don't believe it's in the road for the building of the new amenities block. I'm just disappointed that this turns up in a local newspaper as an expression of interest, and it hasn't been discussed in this room.
Mr Mayor, it's certainly, I suppose it's a follow-on from previously, it was put out to expressions of interest previously because the Muttamborough Recreation camp draft did put an expression of interest
And that got
for that building.
And that got defeated, Brett. Councillors agreed back in November 18 for it not to be moved.
What's the situation on the EOIs? They open, close?
They close at the end of August.
So what happens with it? The plan was that it'll come back to here.
Yes.
We only need to look into it, especially if it doesn't interfere with the footprint of the building. If it does, obviously that has a totally different plan. But at the next meeting.
And the other thing too, Mr Mayor, maybe we should ask the community their thoughts on the building.
Yep, I think councillors can do that at any stage. We're now next September, next meeting, sorry. Any further questions for Stephen's report?
Mr Mayor, can we put something in place so that councillors can get a bit of a bundle of information on some of these building programs?
Yeah, like,
As in, like a set of plans. I know it's on us to also go and visit the sites and have a little bit of a look, but if we don't know what the council is looking at building in certain areas, whether it be the two topics that we're talking about today, the amenities in Aramac and the Alpha, if we can't visualise or see a set of plans to say, oh, is that suitable, I don't think we're informed buyers.
can I just ask, do the new councillors have access to the hub prior to their time of election? Can they go back?
Once you're in the hub, you're in the hub.
You're in-
Sorry,
they-
Mr Mayor, I've looked at previous meeting minutes back to November, so I would assume.
So those, okay, so that they're in the hub for the month where the tender came up, and I think it's December
Right.
19.
Okay,
There's a whole gamut of drawings specific and 3D imagery of
Yeah, right.
what was drafted
I
for that.
probably needed to have a bit.
So, no, point well taken. I just want to make sure, because if you didn't have access to it, well, then you're
No.
very, very relevant. But some of this stuff, and as a transition between councils, certainly as a councillor who sat on both, sometimes it sits in our head or in my head that everybody's seen what I've seen, but
Yeah.
maybe even just a direction to where to go and look.
Yeah,
It's
especially
easy.
if it's historical.
Yeah.
Historically been brought up at a
Yeah.
previous council meeting.
So the drawings that we've, very mindful of an MPI here, so that it's been declared at a later date, but on that specific.
No, I'm just talking construction in
Yeah,
general.
so
Mr. Mayor.
there are detailed drawings available for that one that were released when the tender was originally released, so. Sorry, council, I'm trying to dance around your MPI. So, but more
Yes.
generally, we can look at information plans, locations. Any other questions for Stephen's report? Shutdown we're dealing with in a separate resolution shortly. Pool openings on, there's nothing that you're aware of yet that would significantly delay its opening, Stephen?
Oh, there's three, Mr Mayor. There is some work that's being done, including painting, and we're still recruiting for the positions. Me personally, I've excluded myself from pool discussions for a number of reasons, so I'd have to ask Jenny Lawrence if there's anything that she's aware of that will hold up the opening of the pool.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I don't believe it will be ready to open on the 1st of September.
Okay.
First of all, because
Oh,
we
sorry.
haven't recruited staff.
I thought it was school holiday, so it's normally the first of
It's normally
September.
the
is
1st of
it? Okay.
September. The positions don't close until the 23rd of August, so the recruitment process could take a little time. And we have just awarded the painting of the pool today, so hopefully will be able to get into that as soon as possible. We have the paint on hand,
Okay.
so it's just a matter of providing the service to do that. So we've contracted that out this time. So it probably be later in September.
So school holiday, even though the first is actually normal school holidays, might be more realistic for.
Yes.
A more realistic time.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's fine. That happened. Councillor Plum, anything further?
No,
Peoples?
No, I'm good, thanks, Mr.
Councillor Gleeson? Nancy? Rogers? Right, 332, the CIB. Councillor, just wait, we'll discuss anything else and you'll hold your CII for the last one, please. Councillor Gleeson? Can I have somebody move that we receive the councillor information bulletin items, please? Plum moves, councillor Arthur seconds. Councillors, I think in there there's a bit, if I just move through, councillors, please do not discuss item 2. Item 1, I think that's something we take into consideration. It's not the first piece of correspondence I've had about Bloodwood Road. We're doing a road and street categorisation workshop in coming weeks. We'll look at what we can do there. We'll just take that as formal advice. The Congress in item 3, I will not be attending. I probably wouldn't have been anyway, but it's in Wagga Wagga, New South Wales, so I'm not going to have 14 days away from you all when I get home. Unless Rick's looking for a 14-day holiday and he's going in my stead. There's a request, same as item 1, item 4 there, the New Haven Jackendall Road, a crossing on Cedar Creek. We can take some advice on that and look at that as part of our road prioritisation for the next budget.
Mr Mayor,
Yeah.
I'll just update you on that one.
Thank you.
That's not actually a road, gazetted road, so I think Rick's advised the correspondent that we won't be doing any work on that road.
Okay. Councillor Gleeson.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I just wanted a little tiny bit more clarification on that one, if you don't mind. When was it illegally transferred from the New Haven turn-off access? Has it been legally done or not? Because many, many years ago, the access into New Haven was through Jackendall, not on the North Jolter Road. And the other thing at the moment is, if you have a look at any signage, there's no signage out on the highway for. I totally agree with what you're saying, but are we legal? because the old road, the old access was through Jacketop.
It was maybe a gentleman's agreement. There's no
So
road there.
that was the access road, but there's no legal access. There's no.
As long as we know, as long as we're legally right.
Through there, so.
Councillor Dixon's issue about signage might be worth looking at, perhaps. If there's no signage off, if the North Delta Road is their access, then that property should be listed on the North Delta Road turn-off, perhaps. That might be, no, I think that's a relevant point.
For emergency services anyway.
Thank you.
Any other, not table, so then we don't need to look at that one. IQ wrap, I just get those things periodically. I thought councillors may have been interested in it. Did you upload that into the CAN, Jess? The whole thing? There's another document in your pigeonholes related to that as well. So grab your mail when you go today. It's just an FYI. It's just, so there's a part of it's obviously been uploaded, but there's a more detailed glossy document that's sitting in the pigeonholes over there. It just shows you where the money's been spent, what they're doing. Bit of a pat on the back for IQ wrap.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yeah.
Just going back a step, if you don't mind. When you were looking at if you're going to note the signage and that of these particular properties, can you just make note, from my point of view, the wattle vale, where I am. I own Springvale, and Wattle Vale drives through Springvale to get to Wattle Vale. I don't believe it's a legal access, and there's no signage there. So, if you don't mind, can you just have a little look at that when you're looking at the new
to work that out of session, considering it's one of your properties. We're just talking about one of your properties, so no, you need to look at that out of session.
Okay, sorry. It was a sign, sorry.
Mr. Mayor, we have commenced the project to look at signage off our roads, our main roads, especially in the old Barkle Shire.
The Community Care Services Financial Report, we get a section on that, very next item.
Oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor, we're still with the,
CIB?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I'm going through the items listed there. If anyone's got any questions, yell out as we go. The 60 Better report is there. The scope of works.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, on that, so that's the final report on the draft scope of works? Or that's the final report on the project?
It's the aerodrome strategy. I'm going to have to defer to somebody who knows more than me.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a further report from Drew that, yeah, I suppose because of COVID, we've deferred the Outback Aerodrome event that was going to happen this year, and a range of other companies that we had lined up that Drew was working with to come out and potentially start testing and so on. Hasn't obviously happened because of COVID. So Drew's work has been in some ways ceased partway through the process. There is a more formal report. This is very much just a summary of the actions that we asked him to undertake. So, yeah, but unfortunately it's a situation of COVID has, really stopped us in our tracks of the good work that we've done. It's simply on hold.
Yeah, and it's most likely my confusion, because it says final report, and then in the header of the document it's draft updated scope of works dated 2019, timeframe is September 19 to June 2020. So yeah, and there didn't appear to be, other than a couple of comments in blue in the document, that changed it significantly. Clarify.
Thank you, councillors. The last item I do need to discuss before Councillor Gleeson leaves is the events at Labara. Received correspondence about that. Note that correspondence, or has anyone got anything to add? Councillor Gleeson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I made a phone call to a couple of persons over at Maryborough, and I asked for majority, what was their thoughts, and their thoughts the persons that I was talking to, all the people that I was talking to, thought that it was majority wanted the fence. This was a one-off.
I would concur. My conversations have been the same.
Mr Mayor, are we any closer to our plan or potential plan of?
Like the district manager in her report, if you like.
Right.
Right, Councillor Gleeson's retiring, thank you. Councillors, this one snuck by me a little bit. Oh, it did sneak by me, I read it and then just left it in my emails, and then it's very correctly ended up on our agenda to some extent. There is actually a decision needs to be made around this. We can't do it here now. It's not reported correctly. Stephen, can I ask that we direct this to one of your two DMs, and I'm not sure which two, because this probably make somebody to come back with a recommendation to us for. I think the majority of the events in Aramac, I read the letter again, but they do run here. So one of the two DMs come back to us with a report and recommendation for a future meeting. We will move up or down on that when it comes, but we can't really discuss it without a recommendation.
Yeah. Certainly, Mr Mayor, we'll get the district manager for Aramac and Muttaburra to bring a report back next month.
Thank you. Obviously, there's discretionary funding available for DMs, but then above that, if the recommendation is to go with a more substantial amount, we'll be happy to consider whatever recommendation comes forward. Councillors happy with that?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Gleeson can return. Is there anything to discuss more generally about the CIB? Thank you. Thank you. Community Care Services report. I have somebody move that we receive that report. Just a point of clarification here, staff. We've received that report in the CIB and now we're moving to receive it again. We put it in one or the other? For the
Yeah,
next
Mr
meeting?
Mayor, it should just be in the actual, in the main part of the meeting. It shouldn't be in the CIB. So I'm not 100% sure
That's
why.
right. It's there. We've all got it, just so that procedurally we don't have to do it again. Sorry, bear with me while I find the CIB. 6. Okay, can I have some? We will move to receive it formally. Can we do that, please? Councillor Plum, Councillor Gleeson, seconds. Those in favour? Carried. 7-0. Questions, please? Officer responsible, want to lead us through anything, Stephen?
Oh, Mr Mayor, just to make a couple of comments that obviously, as I've said before, we're now moving into a new financial year where we can hopefully have some year-on-year comparisons. The other thing that we're working on is trying to drill down. We're aware that there's been some costs that are being charged to wrong programs or wrongly allocated. So we're trying to investigate to make sure that we can correctly allocate costs to the right programs, because there's potential that we could be able to recover more money than what we are recovering. But most importantly, we don't want to provide council any misleading information that, we're making X amount of money when we're really not. That's the next piece of work that's being done by Tony Walsh. I know Jenny's helping as well, and Brett. So we really want to now refine the work that we've done over the last 12 months.
Does that mean that the projected annual net profit or loss for NDIS could be revised upwards? It's about break even now. Historic figures showed us an $80,000 profit last year.
Until we get the full data, Mr Mayor, I couldn't confidently say. I would hope that we wouldn't be in a worse position. Any of the work that we're being done will only put us in a better position, but I'm
A
not.
better position than what's here, or a better position than last year?
In relation to what's here so far for this month, for the figures that are here.
Well, yeah, but in this month's figures, there's a projected annual that's substantially lower than year on year.
Yeah, look, until we get to the bottom of, where the money's being allocated and making sure we're doing it correctly, I couldn't give you a confident, response. So, it's just a challenging, there's so many different programs and so much admin and accounting work that goes in behind the scenes. Some of the information that we're being given to put in hasn't been correct, so that's what we're working on fixing. Once we get that fixed, I'll be able to give you an update on, hopefully, a better result for the full year.
Questions? 334, Economic Development Report. Do we have any eyes here? No. Want somebody move, we receive it, please. Plum, second, Councillor Hanson. Those in favour? Carried. Questions?
Mr. Mayor, what's the criteria, I guess, for a project or a program to be on that report?
Awareness.
Awareness. Would our Arid Land Botanical Garden maybe not feature in that sort of area?
No, possibly could.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, we've done the background information, so we've got an A3 flyer, 4-page flyer on that project. It just hasn't made it this far yet, so it's still in the proofing stage.
Yeah, there's no formal application process to be considered. It's just as we're aware of things that we think have got some legitimacy. Probably awareness and legitimacy are the other things. You're not going to let some harebrained idea make its way through there without some credibility. So,
And more recently it's popped up again, and council's had some considerable involvement, and
even
there's items later on that are attached to. Yes.
no, it's a good pickup. Thank you, Stephen, for the answer. Questions further to that report? Being none, 335, special holidays. Before I ask for anything, I am aware that we conducted a poll for Buck Calden. Anyone can give the answers to what that poll's results were? I know it's not binding, but it's informative.
You want the actual numbers?
Oh, just a percentage will do. There would have been about 150 or 60 respond if history tells you.
Yeah, I think it was about 2/3, 1/3 for the West Tech public holiday.
What was the 1/3, Steve?
Oh,
No.
just a yes or no?
Yes or no?
Oh, okay, yeah, I wasn't another event, okay, yeah.
At one point it was as high as 71% in favour, so it ran pretty high the whole way through. I just didn't check the figures when it closed. There's a recommendation, councillors, you want to pull it apart? Change it? I've consulted with people in most areas and they're happy with what we were going to have this year. So, Councillor Gleeson, you were considering a common holiday when we met last?
Yeah, I asked the question. Yeah, I just asked the question, and but we've held it over for a month, and I've actually talked to people as well as you, and there's been a poll. I'm happy to go with the recommendation.
Okay.
To you, Mr. Mayor, I have those figures
Thank
for
you.
the Facebook poll. There was 116 yes and 47 no, but for the 47 no, there was no alternative date given.
Thank you. That's pretty good. Councillor Peoples.
I'll move that if
Moves
you
that recommendation. Seconder. Councillor Hanson. Any further discussion? There being none, put it to the vote. Those in favour? Carried. Funny how 100 Ks can make such a difference. Residents of Longridge are quite upset about public holidays, and here it's 116 people. Okay, 336, annual Christmas closures. Is there going to be any discussion around this? This has been developed by staff from the very ground up. There being no discussion, I'll put it, can I have a mover please? Councillor Plum, second to Councillor Gleeson. Any further formal discussion? Put to the vote, those in favour? Carried, 7-0. Councillors, just for your information, today we'll be breaking at 10 a.m, is that right, Jess?
Yeah.
And morning tea will be served by Buckle and Aged Care in the supper room. And lunch will be at 12:30 by the same group in the same location. So, Councillor Arthur, there won't be just a buffet here for you and other pets.
Mr Mayor, it's probably a good thing.
341. Can I have somebody move the DCA's report, please? Councillor Plum, seconder. Councillor Hanson. In favour? Carried. Would you like to lead us to anything of particular note here before I ask for questions?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, with the funding applications, when we receive the project report, you'll see that I've allocated the federal COVID funding over quite a number of projects. So that was a bit difficult to redistribute the grant funding. So it doesn't necessarily fit what was funded in the budget, but I found other projects to allocate that money to.
Projects that were in the budget.
Other projects that were in the budget. But the funding stipulated that it had to go to projects that were open to the community. So we couldn't do water, sewerage, anything in our depots. Where previously, when we adopted the budget, we had some of that funding allocated to those projects. So it meant rearranging the funding to match the requirements of the funding.
So that, through you, Mr Mayor, that total funding was how much, Brett?
1.291666.
Okay, so now that's been allocated to different items that we've got in our budget.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
It would differ, it does differ, if you look through here and see where we, on budget day, allocated the revenue source for,
Yep.
that it's not exactly going to line up. Some it will, Brett, some substantial ones will, but others it won't.
So, but because there's that 1.2, did you say?
9.
That'll change a lot of what we're spending in there. If you've added.
No, nothing's been added. It's just things that were funded by, say, council, for example, are now being funded by the program, and council's picked up what the program was funding.
Yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying, is that COVID is funding some of what we were funding out of our own.
Yes.
Is it?
Correct.
Yes, okay. So can we as councillors have a look at that list of where you allocated that funding, please?
Mr Mayor, that is in the project report
It's in the
that's
project
distributed, which is in the
And you've got that just out on the side saying this is what
Yes.
COVID, right, thank you.
So that's the LRCIP.
The LRCIP,
Just hold, sorry, Fred. I think Councillor page 46 of your agenda will have the same information without having to be specific. So the project list is substantial. Pages 46 and 47 of your agenda outline those capital works that are funded only by external sources. So roads to recovery, work for Queensland, CMR cycle.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the funding source, predominantly they're a single source, so it's LRCIP or whatever.
Are we talking now about, sorry, I should never have directed you to that.
No, you shouldn't have, Mr Mayor.
Can we discuss it when we get there?
Yes, okay.
Sorry. It is there detailed as well as in the project list.
Okay, well, just to finalise what I'm thinking here, if we've got 1.2 that's come in after the budget.
No.
Yeah, we had that before.
We allocated it in the budget, but then the conditions when we went to lodge were different to what we'd expected. So we've had to just swap it around.
Right.
For example,
I'm
an
thinking
example would be the washdown bay in Alpha Depot. We had it allocated to be funded through this money, but because it's not open to the public, we weren't allowed to.
I'm
Use
thinking we're
that
getting a
funding.
trench
No,
on
there's
top. Okay.
There's not extra
I
money.
was seeing a little.
Window glass half full, No, moving forward, Adam. It's just, I think the Deputy CEO was making you aware that if you looked at this, things that were funded by that and compared it to our original budget, it wouldn't line up. But the amended project list that we see every month has been updated to reflect the true funding source for each project.
Thank you.
Further questions on the, sorry, Brett, you're still leading us through your report. Anything else?
Mayor, I attended a feedback session on the swimming pool application for Barcaldine. So it was pretty positive, the feedback. It got through to the final panel. Probably the reason it was not approved was because the quantum of the application, $10 million, was a step too far to be allocated, considering the large number of applications they had. However, there is another round coming out, so we need to be prepared to reapply if that's council's intention. Couple of things they did mention that would get a higher ranking was we need to make a contribution out of council funds, and that doesn't have to be a large amount, but any contribution will give you a score. So if you have zero contribution, you get 0 points, whereas even a small contribution will get you points that give you a higher ranking.
That's really, Mr. Mayor. The contribution that we were going to make last time, we were looking at spending $1 million just for plans and everything, so as we could submit a plan, they won't count that as contribution.
Unfortunately.
Because that's pre-construction money and it's not eligible costs, so they don't count that.
It's a fair contribution for a small council,
It
though,
is.
isn't it? Yeah.
It is. So in effect, and we put that in there, but it didn't count. It's actually contribution to the construction.
We've discussed a couple of times, we've got to look at how we get it ready. Do we package it into segments so we can apply for different parts of it to be constructed through different grant applications to break it up? How do we get it as close to shovel ready as we possibly can without spending $1 million? Because I don't think anyone in this room wants to spend $1 million on the promise that on the prospect that you might sometime get some funding for it, you know.
It's a pretty big punt, isn't it?
But the other point that they made is they wanted more detailed plans and a more detailed budget, which is what you've got to pay for up front. So it makes it very difficult.
Well, to go back to Sean's, the Mayor's point just recently there, do we try and break it up? Do we look at doing the children's area, or, you know, try and keep the big pool for another 10 years and look at putting some of that other stuff around the 50-metre pool and come back in size?
There's a lot of options. I mean, I'd like to think a dedicated learn to swim / hydrotherapy pool, you know, that's heated to allow for, you know, therapy sessions for old people or people recovering from serious injuries, as well as learn to swim outside of the 50-metre pool. And then that was discussed at the information session that night, that they're all options that could be considered. We have spent a substantial amount of money, have we not, on the pool? On the treatment facility part of the pool?
We've started, yeah.
Isn't there something to do with filters, didn't we? Or did that not happen?
Right, haven't Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
We've done some small upgrades to acid injection and those sort of things. It's being painted again shortly.
We deferred any major
We
expenditure.
haven't spent any major expenditure.
Right.
We did the minimum that Alan Cockrell suggested, because we were hoping to obviously do the major overhaul or full replacement, so.
There's a fair part of your cost just in mentioning those two words, Alan and Cockrell, in the same sentence.
Sorry, Mr Mayor.
I'm not.
Keep going.
Keep going. Okay, get me started on him.
So the LGGSP funding of 622,000, which we're still waiting on. So we've had discussions with the department and
And the minister.
they recommended that we reapply for that funding under for the sewage treatment plant. So we're just waiting on an outcome there. But the money's been allocated to, well, it was originally for the pool, Barkle swimming pool, and then it got moved to the recreation park. Now they're saying go to the sewage treatment plant.
It was originally for the pool.
That's what we originally applied for.
Okay.
So it's for tiling the pool and upgrading
Part of these things.
the filters at the pool.
And we're conscious that we need to get it sorted before caretaker period and the state election, so we really need to get that money in our bank account.
For example, very least. All right, councillors, questions for Brett?
Through you, Mr Mayor, can you just clarify a bit for me the application to split Barcaldine Town water licence? What's going on there?
Mr Mayor, so we're negotiating with the Department of Natural Resources about the water for the recreation park. So they have, we've had several meetings with them, and that's part of the, I suppose, the recommendation that they've come up with is to that water licence. So it's a component of the solution that we haven't got any approvals, and I've lodged the paperwork, get that done, and we're just waiting on an outcome.
So, if we split our town water licence, weren't we close to using our allotted?
But we're hoping that the savings by reusing the sewage water will offset. Sewage water's not being used, so the racetrack, the showgrounds, the schools, all those places that we intend to reuse water will draw down on the amount of, will deliver savings on what water we're pumping out of the bore and where it's going.
Right, well, if we can make savings there, but I still think that we need to look at our allocations too, because I don't think any of these allocations have been increased for 20 odd years. And you can correct me there if I'm wrong, but I don't think the Aramac allocation's been changed since well before amalgamation. But if we're going to split it, can we also look at increasing our allocation?
We'll see what comes out of this process as to what's possible. Any further questions?
And just through you, Mr Mayor, with this new energy hub going in, that's going to increase our water usage as well, won't it?
No, they can't use town water, they've got to find their own water source. 100%.
We had the mayor and Rick and Stephen and I met with Department of Natural Resources yesterday, generally about water and land use across the region. So we're in delicate negotiations, let's put it that way, to try to see what we can do. So we just with water across the region and land vital across the region.
Back to your point, Councillor Hansel, I mean, that's just the same as securing land for, where they're going to put it. They're going to have to buy land, they're going to have to buy water, they're going to have to by power, you know, theoretically. So that's all matters for the proponent to work through. And there are sources around where they could do that, but it comes at a pretty big commercial cost to buy water that's authorised for use for that type of activity, which town water's not.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the preparation of new reporting format for councils, that's the financial report that comes to us.
Yes, so,
Yep, okay.
that's
Because
the
it's
report.
considerably larger than the previous couple of months. And different sort of dashboard.
Picking up on your point, councillor, I couldn't wait to get to work on Monday to congratulate Brett and the team because it's substantially more detailed. I know QTC have got a lot to do with this. It's a bit hard to get anything out of it at the moment because there's only 1 month's worth of figures in it. As the year goes by, that type of financial analysis will really empower our decision making and give us a very clear understanding of costs, overruns, underruns, savings. I think it's an extremely positive step forward. Our old information was, our staff were working very diligently to get it out, but this is a format that actually increases our awareness of it. So I can't wait to see about October, November. It'll be pretty rigid data then.
And Mr Mayor, that training we're going to do will address, go into all that.
Yeah. We'll use this. It's good that we've got this before that because we'll be able to refer to this as and walk us through it. Further questions for Brett? Will someone move that we receive the planning and development report, please, at 342? Anyone have an MPI? Plum. Moves Plum. Seconder Hanson. Those in favour? Carried. So you've got the board as is presented there. And there's also the report from Real Planning in the king.
Mr Mayor, the major application, of course, is the power station at Alpha that we're still working through, and I know Rick's been talking with Real Planning about the infrastructure requirements there. The other major item is the new planning scheme. So we need to have another workshop and special meeting to adopt the new maps.
We're looking to do that, Brett, next week, aren't we? Or the week after?
The first or second week in September.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, it'll be early September. We've got other stuff coming. We're coming together for with UUT and so yeah, we'll come back to you when we've got a date to do that. It'll be a short date. Any further questions, councillors?
Mr Mayor, on our section there, it says that the full details of development applications are available on the council website. How often or regularly is that updated? Because from mine, I could only find the only current one is the development application that we just spoke about, and then the next approved one jumps back to February and then 2019.
Right.
Is that just a lag in the information going up?
Yeah, I'll check on that. I know we did a major project to make sure we had all the past applications put on the website.
As I said, at present it's got the current DA 22-19-20, which is the power station, and then decided applications. The next recent one is the 14th of February, and then it goes to 2019.
I'll check.
Backwards.
I'll check, councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Any further questions? No questions? Okay, I'll adjourn the meeting for morning tea.